Shout out to Jay Calderon Boxing Talk.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Jay Calderon of Fight Hook News and Stand Clear Entertainment, and we're about to get into this week's boxing talk. I know it's been a minute since I did a video, but we're back and we're gonna jump right into this recap of the much anticipated Mexican showdown that took place this past weekend between Oscar Valdez and Miguel Berchelt. This was a great matchup that was being built up as the next great Mexican rivalry, just like Eric Morales versus Marco Antonio Barrera, but it wasn't the war that we expected. It was a great performance by Oscar Valdez and his trainer, Eddie Reynoso, who is one of the best trainers in boxing today. He won Trainer of the Year, and he also trains pound for pound #1 best fighter in the world, Canelo Alvarez. And he's been working now for quite some time with Oscar Valdez, and now we are starting to see the fruits of the labor between these two. Oscar Valdez put up a great fight. Everyone had Miguel Berchelt winning this fight going into the fight, including myself. I was favoring Miguel Berchelt because he was the bigger, stronger, more power puncher than Oscar Valdez. He was the #1 guy at 130 pounds, the top dog of the division. And Oscar Valdez, we've seen him before. He's a two-time Olympian. You know, a lot of people had a lot of high hopes for him, and he was a former world champion at featherweight division of 126 pounds, but he never fought anybody significant enough to really prove himself as a top fighter in his own weight class. And this was his moment. This was the fight that was going to define him, and he showed out in this fight excellent. He went in there with a perfect game plan of stick and move, using a perfect jab, excellent jab that started to bloody the nose of Miguel Berchelt early in the fight, and he was just excellent counterpunching with his skills upstairs, downstairs. He put up some beautiful combinations, and he was just fighting the perfect fight against a guy like Miguel Berchelt, who couldn't get in the inside. He was just following Valdez throughout the fight, and he got hurt very early in this fight. He was in bad shape on wobbly legs. This man got stunned with some great shots by Oscar Valdez, and he got knocked into the ropes, which the ropes held him up, and the referee gave him a standing 8 count. It counted as a knockdown, even though he didn't hit the canvas because, like I said, the ropes held him up. And Oscar Valdez kept on the attack mode, looking very good, very sharp in this fight. He had the quicker hands. Now, before the fight had took place, they said the day before the fight at the weigh-in that Miguel Berchelt had ate 2 whole Hawaiian pizza pies, and he had blew up overnight 16 pounds in weight. And that's a lot. He did look sluggish in this fight. He looked super slow against Oscar Valdez, which we knew who was the quicker man, but he looked very slow, and he was not being able to cut off the ring properly and set up traps for Oscar Valdez. We saw in the middle rounds, I think it was round 6 or 7, where Berchelt started to put the pressure on, started to come forward and land some good right hands, put him against the ropes, and that's where he has much success, when he puts his fighters against the ropes and he bangs away. But Valdez was able to spin off, was able to move out of harm's way and continue to box, and box beautifully. And he went into the 9th round setting up beautiful counter punches that put Berchelt down to the canvas once again, and this man was in bad shape. He was starting to take a beating in this fight, and I believe the 9th round is when this fight should have been stopped. It should not have been able to go into the 10th round because he was behind on the scorecards. I only saw Berchelt winning 2 rounds this whole entire fight, and it was all Oscar Valdez who was dishing out a lot of punishment to Miguel Berchelt, unnecessary punishment that the referee should not have let this fight go into the 10th round, because it was a continuation that we saw Oscar Valdez on his man in that 10th round, boxing, setting up these shots and landing and punishing Miguel Berchelt. And in the last final second of round 10, we saw Oscar Valdez with great defense weave and get out of harm's way of about 3 big shots that Miguel Berchelt tried to land, and we saw Valdez returned fire with a perfect counter left hook, his bread and butter punch. This is his money shot. He landed right on the button of Miguel Berchelt's chin, and this man went crashing down face first into the canvas. It was a picture-perfect, highlight reel knockout, candidate for knockout of the year. This fight was over, and we saw a new champion at 130 pounds. Oscar Valdez deserves all the credit in the world because everyone, including myself, picked Miguel Berchelt over Oscar Valdez in this fight. I thought this fight would go to a decision. Didn't think it would end in a knockout for either man. You know, I picked Berchelt to win by decision and beat up Oscar Valdez throughout this fight because we knew the type of heart that Oscar Valdez had. We've seen him fight through a broken jaw, and we've seen him in tough fights, you know, wars. We've seen him in tough wars before. And, you know, I give a lot of respect and credit to Oscar Valdez coming into this fight, but I just wasn't a believer of Oscar Valdez. You know, we thought that he was going to lose this fight, and he proved us all wrong. You know, he went in there with a perfect game plan. He executed that game plan. He stuck to the game plan throughout. He didn't go into many exchanges with, you know, Miguel Berchelt. He stood his ground when he needed to, but he moved. He slipped shots. He showed great defense. He showed great hand speed. He showed a great jab, and he controlled the fight, and he executed with a great knockout finish to claim the WBC Junior Lightweight Super Featherweight title at 130 pounds and catapult himself to the top of the division as the #1 man to beat now. 29-0 with 23 KOs, undefeated two-division world champion. He puts himself in the history books with a great performance like this. He's sitting on top of the world, and I tip my hats off to Oscar Valdez for putting on such a great performance in this fight. You know, you can't say nothing about this man. He proved everyone, including myself, that he is a very good fighter and he belongs at the top of the division. You know, this was his moment of truth that he came out and he showed out, and I respect that 100%. You know, he called out Shakur Stevenson. This is a fight that I've been asking for before Shakur Stevenson turned professional. I did an interview with him 2 weeks before his first pro fight, and I told him I would like to see him against somebody like Oscar Valdez. This was a fight that I asked him about, and he said, you know, they're good friends back then, but now he's been chasing him since the 126-pound division. You know, he wanted to face him as a featherweight. Oscar Valdez vacated the title and moved up. Now Shakur Stevenson fights at 130 pounds. He is awaiting his opportunity to fight for the WBO Super Featherweight title that Jamel Herring holds right now. Jamel Herring is supposed to fight Carl Frampton, two-division world champion. That's a big fight at 130 pounds, but it just got postponed, and now it's going to be pushed back to about March or April. We're waiting to see Shakur Stevenson get his title shot opportunity, but this is a fight matchup which Oscar Valdez and Shakur Stevenson is the biggest fight to make at 130 pounds. Why? Because Gervonta Tank Davis, who is the biggest name at junior lightweight and holds a WBA 130-pound title, is not fighting any of the champions in that division, or especially a top-ranked fighter or any big-name fighter for that matter at lightweight or junior lightweight, and is rumored to be going down to 126 pounds to fight a featherweight champion in Gary Russell Jr., which is just ridiculous that he's going to be going down in weight to fight a guy that's in the PBC circuit because he's not willing to fight anyone else that's on top rank or anyone else that has to deal with Eddie Hearn over at the Zone. This guy is the biggest name. He's the money maker. He's a great fighter as well with great punching power, but he's not willing to test himself against the very best. So when you look at Oscar Valdez, who is now the man of the division, and a guy like Shakur Stevenson, who is considered to be the future of boxing, the next Floyd Mayweather. Shakur Stevenson is also a former Olympian and a former world champion at featherweight. Now he's looking to become a two-division world champion. This is a great fight matchup that I hope that Top Rank is willing to put together sooner rather than later, because they're looking to most likely milk the WBC title defenses for a guy like Oscar Valdez against good fighters, but not against the very best. And we want to see him against the best. They're going to try to have Jamel Herring and Carl Frampton have their fight instead of giving Shakur Stevenson his opportunity as the mandatory to fight for this title. Like I said, this fight has been pushed back 2 or 3 times for Jamel Herring, and he still hasn't been able to give Shakur Stevenson his just due as the mandatory to get his shot right away. And he's just waiting for his big opportunity to become a world champion again. So why not go the route and let him fight the biggest fight in the division against Oscar Valdez for the WBC title? Let's see what happens, how this plays out. But there's big opportunities for Oscar Valdez now because he sits at the top of the division as the man at 130 pounds. Joseph Jojo Diaz Jr. was just stripped of his title, and he looks possibly for another big fight matchup down the road. He's over there with Golden Boy, but he most likely will have a rematch either with the guy he just fought or with Tevin Farmer. So we have to see how the 130-pound division works out because there's a lot of great fights to be made. You also have Gabriel Flores Jr., who looked very sensational in stopping Jason Velez in his undercard performance of the Miguel Berchelt and Oscar Valdez fight. And he's also at 130 pounds and a great fight for Oscar Valdez down the road. But there's still a lot of great opportunities out there for him. And I just can't wait to see this young man, defend his title and who he's going to defend his title against. So I tip my hats off to Oscar Valdez. Congratulations on a great performance. I would like to thank everyone for tuning into this channel right here, J. Calderon Boxing Talk. Please hit that red subscribe button. Also hit that bell icon so you get all my notifications once I drop a new video. Hit that like button, hit that share button, drop a comment, and follow me on all social media platforms, on Twitter, on Instagram, and join the Facebook boxing group page. I'm Jay Calderon for Fight Hook News and Stand Clear Entertainment. Thanks for your support. Keep watching and please subscribe.